are you focused on football or real estate? I'm like, you're playing video games in your spare time. I'm trying to figure out how to buy this house. I bought 6 properties there.
Wow.
Then I found Kansas City. I bought 8 properties there. So all of a sudden I had damn near 15 properties. So run the numbers and it's like I'm at double the number. Now we're in business.
You knew you did the right thing. That has to be the greatest feeling.
Now I'm...
Hey guys, Zach here. Welcome to another episode of 11 out of 10 podcast. We are crushing it, always delivering the utmost value. Today, I'm elated to bring you a new dear friend of mine, Mr. Devon Kennard.
What's up, guys?
Welcome to the show. Love his energy. His thighs are massive. I don't know if we can get a zoom in on those things, but it's like my whole body is wrapped up in his right and left thigh. Is unbelievable. We have a lot to talk about today. We spent quality time. You came out in the field with me the other day. I want to delve really, deep into it about who you are, where you came from, your real estate journey, your investments, your mindset, and all of it. So welcome to the show, baby. Right out of the gate, we spent 4 or 5 hours the other day. You came around town with me, looked at my project, saw my operation firsthand. What did you learn from those couple hours of, my operation? You've seen a lot of people, met a lot of people, raised a lot of money. What did you learn with me?
I was inspired and motivated because I kind of feel like I'm a person who wants to build my own business as much with my own capital, build it up. It doesn't have to happen overnight, but it seems like in today's market, there's less and less people doing that to where it almost feels like it's impossible. Everybody's taking on a bunch of partners or they have to raise money from a lot of different sources, running syndications. They're just doing a lot of different things, and I'm not gravitated towards that. So like seeing your operation, how you built it up, but even how you're operating and doing it today now was inspiring, and figuring out where I can invest, where I can grow here locally in Arizona. I've invested a lot out of state. I have backgrounds in some different investment vehicles within real estate, and your operation, I think I messaged you, but I've met with a lot of people who made a ton of money, and I haven't been as impressed as I was then with you, with your operations, what you're doing. So that's kudos to you for sure.
I appreciate it. I know we spoke a lot about, and part of the goal with this podcast, and the primary goal really is to just deliver value to the audience, right? Takeaways that people can extrapolate from our conversation, your experience, my experience, and deliverables that we can give them through the show that they could take immediate action to implement in their business. Now, it's interesting. We met at the Growth House and our good buddy Jesse, and shout out to him, and great guys bringing good people together. You were telling me when we first met, hey, Zach, I got operations, I got projects out of state, and I'm thinking more of going in-state and hard money lending. You're all over the board. What did you learn from, just maybe moving the operation locally, and what were some of the hardships you've had by investing in other states and relying on other people?
Well, when you're investing out of state, it can work. That's one thing in real estate. It can all work. So many people are selling their strategy. There's a ton of ways to make money in real estate. But what I'll say about investing out of state is you lose some of the meat on the bone, because I'm not going to get the same pricing in Tampa, where I own properties, that I can get here locally by pulling up to the projects. Maybe I'm ordering the material myself like you do in your operations. So it made me realize I'm leaving a lot of meat on the bone, investing out of state. And then you got to trust these people. Now, I've made kind of building a team in different markets a specialty of mine. So I got good teams operating well in different markets, but I'm still leaving profits out there because I'm not there day to day. A great example is I own properties in Tampa, and there was just a hurricane there. And now I'm on the phone with my contractors constantly trying to make sure that they're staying at my job because there's other things pulling them away. If I was there, it would be a lot easier to where I'm pulling up every day. Hey, we're almost at the finish line. I need you guys to finish this. Doing it over the phone, is a little more difficult. And I'm already planning to fly out there because I'm like, they need to see my presence. They're getting a little distracted, and I need to get them to the finish line. So that's just a real life example of how investing out of state, it could get a little hairy at times, and it would be easier if it was all here.
Probably a little more sleepless nights and worry, right? Because it's out of your control. Exactly. When you talk about building teams out of state, how do you find the right people? How do you vet them, and how do you trust them?
So, there's the whole notion you need your core four, which is the deal finder, contractor, property manager, and then the lender. My kind of mindset before kind of pivoting and saying I'm going to do more business here is if I could build this core four out, I can invest almost anywhere in the country. And I've done that. What I found is if you find a rock star deal finder, somebody who's either an investor, an agent, a wholesaler, he is going to be the domino effect to put you in line with the rest of the team that you need. because a great deal finder, they're probably an investor themselves. They've done deals, they've been around deals, they know a lot of other investors, but they have a great contractor list. And if they see that I'm a serious buyer, they're gonna introduce me to their A team, because if they can connect me with a good contractor, they know I'm gonna keep buying deals from them.
Smart.
So it creates a funnel to where, all right, let me know who your best contractors are, if it's a long-term rental, who's the best property management that's gonna give me good pricing, but is gonna do a good job. So I found that that's been kind of the domino effect. But over the years, I've realized that you have to have your bench players too. So speaking in football terms, I got my starters and I got my bench players, and I have to have my core four, who's my deal finder, contractor, property manager. But let me have guys on the bench who's ready to plug in, because if those guys ever start slipping, hey, I have somebody to fill in. And early in my investing journey, I didn't necessarily have my bench players, and I felt trapped, or I was losing money for periods of time because the transition was more difficult. I didn't have it lined up already. So those are some of the things I would do to protect myself investing out of state. But to the point, doing that here would be a lot easier. So, that's kind of been my learning journey over the years with investing.
I love that. I call that contingency planning, right? Planning for the worst case scenario. If Joe doesn't show up today, then I got Jason or Rebecca to jump in and go from there. You never know when a player is going to get hurt. You got to have a backup plan for sure. I love it. And I love speaking the analogies to football. Speaking of football, so let's give people a background of where'd you grow up? I know you played in the NFL and went to school. So give people a little background of who you are and how'd you become this beast?
Yeah, so I'm born here, Phoenix, Arizona, grew up in Ahwatukee, went to Desert Vista. Coming out of high school, I was a top 5 recruit in the nation, could have went anywhere.
What position?
Outside linebacker, D-end. So I chose USC, and that's when, I was at the top of the top, and then I get to college, and I had a bunch of injuries, grade 4 microfracture in my hip, tore the pec off my bone, tore my ACL, to where it didn't look like football was going to happen for me. And I went through a tough period. I was kind of depressed and very bitter, because people were having more success for me, but I felt like people weren't working as hard as me. So that was kind of a weird period of my life, but it taught me, all right, what am I going to do outside of football? I need to have a plan. I want to be successful no matter what. So I got to figure this out. And that's what led me to real estate. I met a guy, and the kind of story behind my first mentor in the space was, I go to his office and he had what I would call a Lululemon outfit. That wasn't a thing back then, but some pants, the ABC pants and a jacket, and he had a moving desk. And it was the first time I saw one of those desks that moved. And he used to be a police officer, owned 6,000 units in LA, and had his own property management firm. And that was my first experience where I was like, you started off as a police officer. He house hacked, bought one house, rented it out, bought another, and built it up. And I'm like, if he was able to do that off a police officer salary, I'm going to figure this shit the heck out. And that was kind of my mindset. And as soon as I got in the NFL, I ended up being drafted in the 5th round. And I started buying properties right after my rookie season, and I've never looked back.
That is insane. Let's delve into these injuries and the depressing part, right? Everyone talks about their successes, and obviously you're here because you're a very successful gentleman on and off the football field, obviously. But how did you overcome when you said, hey, you're feeling down, you had all these injuries, you're thinking, hey, you may not even go to the NFL, and you're obviously pivoting and thinking about how you are going to manage success in some other niche, which obviously is real estate. How did you get through those hardships mentally? And what did you have mantras? Did you meditate? How did you overcome those hardships?
I kind of told myself that I can't control what exactly is going to happen, but I'm going to fall in love with the process. And at the end of all this, I want to be able to look in the mirror and say I did everything possible to be successful both on and off the field. And if I do that, I can live with the results.
I love that.
So I was I doubled down, because I started to question, to be honest. I was in a time period, I'm seeing friends partying a lot more than I was partying at the time. When I was in college, I got my undergrad and master's degree in 5 years. So I got drafted and already had an undergrad and master's. So it was a lot of sacrifice. I took 8 units every summer, 16 units every semester. I missed out on some partying. I wasn't I could turn up with the best of them, but I was making the sacrifice. And I started to question myself on whether, why is it not paying off? And I kind of finally stopped becoming bitter when I'm like, they're doing it their way, but I won't be able to live with myself if I'm not successful and I do it their way. So I'm going to do it my way. And that way, whatever happens, I could be like, I stayed true to myself. I did it my way, and I could live with the results. So that mindset was like, I'm going to double down on what I believe is the right way to approach football and life and everything.
Hello? You just closed a deal on Investorlift for $100,000? Well, that happens all the time. I talk to wholesalers all day, every single day. And the number one problem they have? Buyers. If you're struggling with low assignment fees, deals not moving, contract fallouts, or having to consistently JV with other people, don't waste time, don't waste money. Come to Investorlift today and see how we can help you. Just click on the link right below.
And I can, let the cards fall how they may. And, looking back, that decision is what pivoted and changed my life. I did it my way, but I got questioned a lot along the way, like, oh, DK doesn't want to hang out with us. Or I was in the NFL and I started talking about real estate, or DK, the real estate guy, like,
right.
Are you focused on football or real estate? And I'm like, you're playing video games in your spare time. I'm trying to figure out how to buy this house.
Good for you.
Like, what's the deal? And full circle for me now is like those same type of people
are
hitting me up.
I
like,
love it. You knew you did the right thing.
And,
that has to be the greatest feeling.
Now I'm like grateful, but I can't act like in the moment that wasn't a decision I had to make day in and day out, because it wasn't always obvious that I was making the right decision.
So where did you, it's a beautiful story. I mean, talk about resilience and delayed gratification, which we spoke about the other day, and just staying in your own lane and, waiting for your time when your time has come, both on and off the field. Where did you get this work ethic? Does it come from the family, your mom? Who was your inspiration, role model growing up?
I would say, so my father played in the NFL too. He played 13 years, won a Super Bowl with the Cowboys, played here locally for the Cardinals as well. So that's always instilled in me.
Who's your dad? What's his name?
Devon Kennard. Yeah, so, and then my older...
DK. Yeah. Are you DK Jr.?
No, I have my brother's DK too. So my whole family, my mom's name's Denise, my sister's Denisha, so we're all DKs.
Yeah.
If you say DK, we might all turn around.
Yeah, that's so funny.
But,
DK!
Yeah. So my brother was a huge impact on me growing up, because I didn't like being coached by my dad. He's a very big personality, intimidating. I just wanted my dad to be dad. But my brother became like a second father figure to me to an extent. He was my coach all high school. Wow. So I would say he instilled in me a lot of that work ethic. Like, if you're doing what everybody else is doing, how are you going to get ahead? Like, do you have bigger visions than everybody else? You can't do what everybody else is doing. If everybody else is just working out once, you need to work out twice. You have bigger goals. So that mindset, I think he instilled in me.
Did he play ball too?
Yeah, he ended up playing. He played in Canada for a little bit, got picked up by the Colts. It didn't work out. So he still coaches. He coaches at Basha High School and trains high school athletes to even till today.
Cool.
So I would say my dad and my brother on that instance. But, a huge thing for me over the years was just like, I felt my parents' upbringing wasn't the greatest. They grew up in Stockton, California, and they changed the trajectory of our life with their decisions, and my dad playing in the NFL. And I always, for whatever reason, nobody told me I had this responsibility, but like I felt like it was my responsibility to take the next step, like for my dad. Like, he was passing me the baton, and it was my responsibility to take the family further. Like, he got them out of a really hard position, and I had a much better life growing up than he and my mom may have had. But, good enough isn't good enough. Like, how can I take the family forward? And I always, even when I was young, I feel like I had that ingrained in me of like, it's my turn now. I got to do more. I got to take the family forward.
Good for you. Man, I'm feeling inspired right now. Luigi, you inspired? He's over there rocking. So, very eloquent speaker as well. It's funny because the perception typically, you hear football players, and I'm like shocked that I met a lot of NFL guys recently and coming into the journey in real estate, and I say the same thing all the time. Like, these fuckers are they're so smart. Like, you just think, oh, athletes, whatever. But man, to even be at the main level, to think quickly and to operate and pivot and just stay on your toes, if you will. I'm impressed with your intellectual capacity as well as physical capacity. I mean, they're like literally par and par. I'm just enamored by it. It's really cool.
I appreciate that.
That's insane. So talk to me about why, I know you met this gentleman, the police officer in 6,000 units and a moving desk, but why real estate? I mean, you had so football the whole time. You're thinking about changing the trajectory even further for the family, but why the avenue of real estate? What caught your attention outside this police guy?
So he kind of planted the seed to where I knew real estate was probably it. But when I got in the NFL, I start talking to a lot of older players, like just trying to feel the way of the land, and everybody had financial advisors at the time. So they still do, so not at the time, but the traditional financial advisor is getting you into stocks and bonds. And for whatever reason, I don't think there was any one person or thing, but for whatever reason, the concept of like, I didn't know how long I was going to play in the NFL. I was a 5th round draft pick. So my mindset was like, I want enough consistent income coming in outside of football that is going to pay my main bills.
Yep.
So like first getting in the league, like I'm like, if I could have an income that I can rely on outside of football, that's like $5 to $6 grand. That was my first number I said. Then I'm like, if football doesn't work out or I only play 1 year, I know all my bills are covered and I could figure it out of what's next. And I got a financial advisor, and it's like the stock market and this and that, and it wasn't solving that.
Right.
So I'm like, it's going up and down. Sometimes I made money, some like this or that.
There's no dividend to it, right? It's a compound growth, but that's not necessarily paying the bills. That's the problem.
Exactly. And that bothered me. And then seeing, I know you're not supposed to look every day and all that, but seeing the ups and downs, I'm like, the volatility, no cash flow, that frustrated me. And then at this time, I've already read like Rich Dad, Poor Dad and some of the real estate books. And I'm like, the concept of like having a solid base of income really was attractive to me. So as soon as my rookie season ended, I fired my financial advisor and I went to a real estate meetup out here.
$11,000. That's how much more you'll make per deal using Investorlift. Stop wasting money. Stop wasting time. Book a demo with us today and let us show you how we can help. Click on the link below to book a demo with us right now.
But I actually met a guy who was buying out of state, had some connections in Indianapolis of all places. And
I went to Bloomington, by the way. Been in Indianapolis many a times.
Yeah, so it was a great market to buy, and I went out there, visited, and I bought my first property that off season. So that was like February of 2015 was my first purchase, and my mindset then, so it was cash flow based. It was like Arizona felt too expensive for me at the time. Hindsight, I wish I was fucking buying in 2015.
Hindsight's always 2020, right?
But and then I had LA experience. I went to SC. That's even more expensive.
Yeah.
And I was playing for the New York Giants in New York. That was crazy. So my mindset was like, I need to find some cheaper markets that I could buy, and I just need to hit $5 or $6 grand. So I start running the math, and you could buy $100,000 properties or less and charge, give or take, $1,200. I had some capital. I'm like, if I buy,
you only need $500,000 and you're going to hit your number.
That's where my head was at.
Yeah.
So that's what I started doing. I bought in Indiana, and then the guy flaked on me after my first purchase, so I couldn't keep buying there. So I found Ohio. I bought 6 properties there. Wow. Then I found Kansas City. I bought 8 properties there. So all of a sudden I had damn near 15 properties, and I paid cash. And I'm getting, so run the numbers, and it's like I'm well above
double
the number. Now we're in business. So that was where my head was at in real estate for a long time, and then things started to shift the last couple of years, I'd say.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I was thinking on my walk this morning, I was really excited to see you again today. We have this good, unique vibe and energy with you. It just elevates the game. I was thinking about how important decisiveness was just like a word that came into my head today, and how powerful it is to have the knowledge to move forward. You're a man of conviction, right? When you decide on something, I can already tell it's like there's no holding you back. You're going to tackle, you're going to do whatever you need to do to get the ball, or same thing in real estate. When you're deciding, okay, I'm going to buy these houses, I'm going to have this passive income, you make a decision, you're very decisive and move forward. How did you know, like, okay, I have this money and I'm just going to buy this specific property? How did you learn, like, okay, is it just based on, was your initial investments cash on cash? You weren't really thinking about appreciation because you're just holding these assets, correct?
So my mindset was like cash on cash.
Yeah.
And appreciation will take care of itself. Like, it's going to naturally appreciate over time. I was buying more or less turnkey properties, so that's properties that are already renovated.
Right. So you were kind of paying retail at the time, and I'm sure that
retail are close to it, but because I'm essentially buying from a fix and flipper. Like,
correct.
They're buying in those. A typical deal would be they're buying it for 40.
Yep.
They're putting 30 into it,
and you're buying it for
70,
100.
and I'm buying it for 100. So they're winning, but then the numbers still made sense to me. So on a cash on cash basis, I wasn't. as a couple years in, I started to realize I could be making that spread if I
Right.
did it, but I didn't have the capacity. I'm
Right,
worried
you're
about
busy.
sacking Aaron Rodgers.
Exactly.
So yes, they're making 30 grand, and if I could figure that piece of it out, that could be my 30 grand.
Right.
But I don't have the capacity for that. I didn't feel like I understood or had the time to be able to manage that on my own yet. Now I do.
Exactly. So I was going to say, how has your original acquisitions now changed in your business model? Now that you're no longer in the league, are you now focusing on equity and cash flow, or what's your game plan today?
So my game plan today, which leads into like my private lending company,
Which you can talk about here, please.
Yeah. So I started 42 Solutions, which is a private lending company.
Why 42?
That was my number. So only time
it.
I didn't wear 42 was when I was for the Giants because it was retired. But
Got it.
ever since high school, I wore 42, and it solved a lot of problems for me, football and that number. And now I want to help other people solve problems and grow their real estate business. So that was the reason I named it 42 Solutions. I hope I can solve the financial issues, funding deals, and help investors invest through my company as well.
Amazing.
But my mindset was today is, I looked at my portfolio over a 10-year period, and I cash flowed great on my portfolio. It did well. But even so, most of my wealth has come from the appreciation and tax benefits of a portfolio that was for cash flow. So what that told me was these are markets that historically don't necessarily appreciate that great, and I still made more money from appreciation and tax benefits than I did cash flow. So I'm like, what if that same amount of money was in Arizona? And you could tell me what those numbers would look like better than I could. But if I put $1.5 million into real estate in 2014, I'd be in Arizona instead of buying what I did. So my mindset now is like, okay, if most of my wealth is actually from appreciation and tax benefits, let me solve for cash flow somewhere else and allow real estate to do what it does.
Yep. Delay gratification, buy in a further or more likely appreciating markets, not worry about the cash flow on that, but let that kind of be sedentary, if you will, and then work the capital in private lending. It seems like your strategy.
Yeah, so I'm gonna get the higher cash return in my private lending business.
Yep.
That's gonna fund my lifestyle, and that's gonna fund enough money to continue to buy deals, grow my portfolio.
Yeah.
And then keep buying deals and appreciating markets, and as those deals appreciate,
You could recycle the capital, you can arbitrage, and then use it for lending.
And so
brilliant strategy.
So couple my private lending company with acquisitions, and the acquisition side is really important because the private lending side is going to hit me for taxes. I'm going to have to pay ordinary income.
And then you're going to offset that through the depreciation factor on your holdings.
Yes, cost segregation studies, accelerated depreciation. And
that's an interesting
game.
factor. Everyone talks about cost segregation, and it's great in one respect, but it's also bad in another because you're really just delaying the taxes because you are going to people forget you recapture. If you don't sell, of course, it just brings it down to zero, and then somebody else is going to inherit that. But at the end of the day, I just use straight line. I might have a lot of properties because if you sell something, again, your basis could be zero, and then you have a huge tax ramification. Depends who's in office. I mean, you can't make business decisions solely based on tax strategy.
Yeah,
right.
No, absolutely.
So it's interesting.
It definitely can't depend on the tax strategy, but that's kind of been the balance of my perspective moving forward, and how I hope to balance out the lending with the
I love it. I think it's a good diversification play. It's a hybrid strategy, which is
in a
great.
way, it's my solution for doing what you're doing. And I think, in my eyes, you're vertically integrated.
Of course,
because you're buying deals, like you're solving many issues within the real estate industry here in Arizona. Like, I don't have the experience on flipping that you do, but I can fund flips. Now I'm getting more exposure to deals and opportunities. I can cherry pick ones maybe I buy for myself. My wife's a real estate agent, so she can list properties. So I'm trying to build my own vertically integrated, business model between lending, acquisitions, agent side, similar to what you have, but I'm just hitting a little different buckets.
And I can tell you, just in the limited time that we spent together, you fully have the capacity. I've spent a lot of time with many different people from all walks of life, and you're a quick study. When we were out at these houses and your eyes are just blown, looking around like, how much is it going to cost you to do this? How fast are you doing it? But I can tell you picked it up right away. So for you to transition from paying the retail, of course, to the acquisitions and then doing the value add to create the equity will be a very simple and easy adjustment for you. I have 100,000% confidence in your abilities.
Well, I mean, with you as a friend, how could I fail? Because I'm just going to come to your properties and piggyback off of your strategy.
And you're my door is always open. I have the mentality that there's always an abundance of opportunity. People have this limited mindset, right? Like, there's deals left and right. I'm happy to help anybody. No fee, no nothing. I want to see everybody win. What's the big deal? Share resources. Yes, here's my contractor's number. Here's the demo guy. Here's my discounts at Home. God bless America. Everybody deserves the right to win. It's interesting.
And I have that same mindset. People with a limited perspective, it's like, man,
they're limited in their lives.
Yeah, you treat people right, and you're giving. It's going to come tenfold. So
it's karma,
I'm willing
to
help people. I'm willing to give resources because I know it's going to come back tenfold.
It's law of reciprocity, and I have zero expectation. It's not like I do it and say, oh, now you owe me. If you do that, you're also screwed because that's bad karma. You do it to do it when you expect nothing in return, and then God blesses you. Are you a religious man?
Yeah, so I'm very faithful. I have a strong faith base. It kind of comes from my family, but also I think that time period in college really impacted that because I was just I look back and I was bitter, depressed and angry. Like I felt like I ousted and I felt like I wasn't hurting nobody. Wasn't hurting anybody but myself. Like I'm bitter and mad that other people are successful. Had hate in my heart, and I'm like, this isn't who I want to be. And my faith kind of guided me back, and it taught me something. I felt like I tethered my identity to the game of football, and when things weren't going well, I felt like I lost myself for a while. And my faith kind of brought me back, and then I said I'll never tether myself to any one thing. Like, football is what I do, but it's not who I am. Real estate is now what I do, but it's not who I am. And trying to keep that aligned, like, I'm a father and husband. I'm a friend. I would like to say I'm a disciplined person. Like, there's certain qualities that's who I am, not real estate investor, not football player. And, my faith in God, I feel like that's aligned me in that way.
So I'm going to line this up for you because you did this for me, which I loved, and it still resonates in my mind every day. We were in a private little unique mastermind, and you came up with the greatest line ever, which I think is great value for people in terms of identification of who they are. If I can ask you, which you said, to talk about who you are and not utilize business as it, who are you?
I would say I'm a father, I'm a husband, and I'm a person who wants to help people grow in all aspects of their life. And I want to leave everything I touch in a better place than it was when I got there. And I think if I could do that in all aspects of my life, then, when it's my time to go, I can, I'll be at peace and I'll know that I left a positive mark. And I think having that mentality will positively, whatever I touch will hopefully not turn into gold, but will be better. And so I think that's who I want to be. That's who I am and who I aspire to be every day.
I love that. I mean, so credit to you and vulnerably speaking, and that's what this is about, just going deep in the skin. You said, because so many people tie themselves to, oh, I'm the biggest real estate investor. I'm the greatest football player. I'm this or that. But when you take away all that stuff and you take off the layers, the clothes, and all this, misidentification, that is just so profound. It's so deep, So when you wake up, I'm curious about routine, and obviously you had to be a very routine guy in terms of NFL and training, your brother training you and working out twice as hard as everybody else. Today, what motivates you? Like, what is your routine? What's your mantras? What's your day-to-day look like? And what makes your blood boil to, keep moving forward?
Like, I consider myself a lifestyle investor and business person today because the sacrifices I made to make the amount of money I've made playing football and the things I have lined up, I don't want to be an 80-hour-a-week person, but I'm also only 33. So some people pack it in and, have no ambition anymore. So for me, it's like building the right structure in my life to where I can go and be ambitious and go achieve great things and feel very fulfilled professionally, but still have the time in my schedule to take my kids to school every morning, to play with them after school and teach my oldest how to ride a bike. I just did the other day. So balancing that and realizing I think I do have the capacity to become some ultra wealthy real estate mogul, but that's not really my goal. I want to be able to travel for 2 weeks in Europe over the summer because it's hot as hell in Arizona. I want to be like, so that's important to me. That's more important to me than like how many units can I say I earned or that. And that's what really was unique about you to me is like you could bring in capital and blow your model out of the door if you really, really wanted to. Like, not that you need capital, but like if you own 300 units, you could bring in investors and get to 1,000 units. But you're building it your way in the life that fits your lifestyle. And I think so many people want to scale whatever there is they're doing.
Right.
We're talking real estate.
Yeah.
And what I've also realized is that doesn't always mean the bottom line is better. So it's like, if I can make the amount of money I want to make to live life how I want to and keep my business small, I can still make just as much, if not more money than some of these people who look like they're, crushing it because they have 10,000 units under assets under management.
But they don't have 10,000 if you take their prorated share. And what control do they have? All of a sudden, you dilute it down so you own 10
then you have
units.
all these employees.
And you're
then you have
answering to all
investors,
these people and you're K1. So bigger and scaling isn't necessarily better, which is a great point for people.
So when I realized that, and then I couple that with my desire to be present in my kids' lives, my desire to have flexibility to where I could come here on a Thursday, mid-morning.
Yeah.
Like, I value that a lot, and I want that to be able to remain while still being able to grow something really cool, be ambitious, and achieve great things. So it's kind of like, I call it like lifestyle investing and business ownership, because I want to build, but how I build matters.
For sure. That's critical. It's like, if you're building a house extremely quick and you're negating the foundation, I don't care how high you're going to go, it's going to crumble because you have a weak foundation. So how you build is extremely important, and you need to think about it before you start building, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's critical. What are you enjoying more? Did you enjoy playing more in the league full time? Are you enjoying real estate more? Or are you kind of missing it? And how are you still getting that competitive dynamic in your life? Because I'm sure once an athlete, and nothing in your life, soccer, tennis, wrestling, I'm nobody. But in terms of, I'm just a competitive guy across the board. How are you feeling those juices today without football?
Takes off. He picks up a first down.
Oh man, look it. I gotta teach my man Zach how to throw a football, but he's teaching me so much today in real estate. I learned so much. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. And look, you guys, I learned how to take this trash to cash, and my man taught me everything. It was a true masterclass today.
Guys, if you want to see more content like this, stay tuned every week. We're going to be updating the station. We're going deep. We're throwing touchdowns. We're doing short passes. We're bringing you everything you want to know about real estate. Turning trash to cash. That's what we do. That's what we excel in. And we'll also enhance our spiral throws.
Baby.
Working on it, baby.
Come on, give me a good one. Give me a good one.
Have a good weekend.
There we go. All right, there we go. There we go.
All respect to regular day-to-day people working out there, but one thing I found this last year and a half since I retired is there's a lot of people just okay with being average.
Right.
And I'm not used to that. And the mastermind we went to has lit a fire in me because it was cool being around professional individuals who got, like, I called it that dog in them.
I love it. Say the line. This was great.
Like, yeah, so for me, it's like when I was playing in the NFL, I'm around ambitious, hungry. Everybody's trying to get it.
Yeah.
Jobs are on the line. You trying to put food on the plate for your family, like going and getting, and then relieving that and having this expectation. For me, that converts over to all aspects of life. And I felt like like everyday people, I'm surrounded around a lot of people with a lower standard.
For sure.
And it's not like I've gone down to their level, but my standards have decreased a little bit, if I was being honest. And it clicked at the mastermind we were at. So shout out to Jesse again. But I'm like, F that. My standard is my standard, and I need to be around more people on the business mindset that think and operate that way.
That have the dog and that have that mentality, that
dog,
drive.
That dog and that mentality and the hunger and it's cool seeing that in other spaces, specifically in real estate. And I think that's a part of the reason why you and I hit it off, because we can feel it in each other. And I think that's really important. And it's something that I'm constantly reminding myself now, because it's like, no, you can't let society and everyone you're around kind of lighten your light.
You use the term, I believe, lions or tigers versus compared to sheeps, right? Hey, no disrespect, but I want to be around sheeps because that's going to lower, my energy level, my drive. You are who you surround yourself with, right? Yep. So at the end of the day, which I love, and you stood up, you're like, no disrespect, but I don't need to be around a bunch of sheep because I'm a lion, and I love that. So it's like, I think it's really important to always analyze and kind of, take a check and a view of, hey, who am I surrounding myself? Is my energy getting drained? Am I getting excited? Can I enhance my business based on, these people? Or am I losing energy, like you say? So we always want to be at the pinnacle of our game and what we're doing, engagement, physically, mentally, emotionally, all of it. So I think that's really important, just to really assess who you're surrounding yourself with, to make sure that you're not devaluing who you are as a person.
Yeah, and I think that's huge. That's why us grabbing dinner or going on tours here and there, having conversations like this, like that keeps you lit.
Yeah, that fire.
That keeps you lit. And if you don't have that and you're not surrounding yourself with people like that, it starts to dampen in just a little bit.
And people, I don't think, realize it because it's a subtlety, right? Like, you come out, you probably felt it right away because you're around these manimals, right? These guys that are fucking full on, lions and tigers and ambitious, like you say. So every day you're just accustomed to it. And then you step out of that, and real estate doesn't move as fast as football, but it certainly can be. Because for me, it's funny, coming from Detroit and coming out to Arizona, I'm like, why is this so slow? Like, that's my first thing that I realized. There's so much opportunity out here for people that have that mindset of embracing it. Like, every snap, every phone call is an opportunity to, run the ball or a touchdown or a throw. It's like, you have that mentality. I'm sprinting at everything that I do. You call me on a deal, I don't care what I'm doing. I'm grab the phone, run out to the property. I treat it like my life is on the line. It's the same mentality. Typically, when I drive around by myself as a solopreneur, it's a long day, right? You're driving 3, 4, 5 hours. You saw my day transparent. I didn't make any modifications. It's tiring solo. And then with you in the car and the questions and going out and just having fun, at the end of the day, normally I'm tired. I felt energetic. I'm like, I had this great day with DK, and that's nice, right? I felt energized through your excitement and your eyes, and I'm learning shit from you too. So it's like, it's always important to be a sponge and learn from everybody, because I respect your model. I'm like, oh, maybe I should do private lending. Maybe I should do this. But I'm sticking to my game. I respect it. It's cool, but I'm happy to pass that on to you.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, because people don't understand the difference between what's mandatory and what's necessary. And we live in a world where everybody does what's mandatory, which is enough to get by. What do you got to do to make sure you keep your job, you keep your boss happy, whatever? I gravitate towards people who are willing to do what's necessary for them to be successful. So do you have to damn near every day or multiple times a week go and view all your properties yourself personally? No, you could probably pay someone to go do it. You could probably get pictures from but the fact that you're going above what's mandatory to what's necessary, I think is really cool. And in the real estate space, I found there's not that many people doing that. And that's how you can really stand out. Like, do you pick up the phone? Do you respond to emails and texts efficiently? Do you say you're going to do what you say you're going to do? Like, do you do what you say you're going to do? Like, I'm finding there's so many people that don't do,
right.
I'm like, just picking up the phone, you email me, I email back the same day.
And then nothing.
And like you don't do that,
right. But that's our standard between mandatory and necessary. And going back to what you say is, if everybody does the same thing, which is almost nothing, right? They're the ones passively, virtually send me a picture. I'm not going to spend the time to drive out there. I don't understand that. That doesn't make any sense to me. That doesn't computate in my mind, because I have millions of dollars on the line in a monthly basis in acquisitions. How am I not going to go out there and see that nobody cares more about your assets than you? Nobody else cares. Just like you firing your financial advisor because they're just putting you in stocks that doesn't align with your mission of passive income, because they don't really care what you do as long as they're getting their 1 or 2%. They'll call you, hey, Devon, we're up 10% this year. You're like, great, but the market, the S&P was up 20. You didn't even meet the S&P requirements. They've done nothing for you. Nothing. That's what I say all the time. Like, we need to take back control. In general, if you really care to enhance your game, to really become the captain of your domain. Yeah. Nobody cares more about the position financially or where you're going than you. You want to be at the helm of that, the boat.
I mean, to that point, since you touched on it, the reality that people need to see, I've interviewed with a lot of financial advisors over the last 10 years. I speak at a lot of conferences on real estate and finances across the country. And everyday people need to realize real estate, private equity, and things, private credit, which is like private lending. People with money, that's where a lot of their money has gone. and people still aren't, like, everyday people still aren't buying real estate, finding ways to own all or parts of small businesses. Like, the returns you get in those industries are outsized, and it's more cash basis than just the stock market. And I don't think enough people are diversifying in that way. Like, I'm not saying the stock market's bad, but I'm like, you look at like family offices and how they're bringing in money, and the things we're doing, like, there's a reason Blackstone's starting to buy up a ton of single family properties. Why they're like follow the trends. Like, what's big money doing? And you're seeing more and more movement in these directions. So I think it's just a testament to, like, real estate and business is a really unique place to be, and it's almost mandatory with where society is today.
For sure, at least have a portion of it in your portfolio. You know, I mean, I say the reason I got into real estate is I looked at the wealthiest people in the world, and I realized that they were all on the Forbes list of the billionaires. In some capacity, 90+% of them are all in real estate, whether actively or passively, or where I say, where do you put your money today? I guarantee, I believe you made what, $30+ million in the league? Is that a public information?
Something like that.
Something like this guy, yeah, something like that. And I guaranteed you saved every fucking penny after tax and put it into real estate and positive investments for you, which is super impressive.
Well, I mean, I think another notion, that delayed gratification you brought up. So what I don't like is there's a lot of people online who will be like, oh, save up your money, and, you don't got to buy the car you really want, just drive a Toyota. There's nothing wrong with that. But I come from a different vantage point where there's some people that want nice things. And I always had a desire to have a nice car, or I kind of like watches, buy a nice Rolex one day and stuff. And my mindset was, it's not that I can't have those things, it's how you buy them. So I had football money. Instead of just spending my earned money and buying the car that I want to drive and buying that, I said, I'm going to add a step. I'm going to earn as much money as I can from football. I'm going to invest that money and allow the money from the investment to eventually buy me those things.
Smart.
So delaying gratification and waiting, I was able to buy the car that I drive today with nothing but, money that came in from real estate. Like, I didn't need that money. It was just sitting because I had football money coming in. I saved up enough, and I finally bought the car that I wanted. People aren't willing to delay the gratification and add that step in.
Right.
Earn, invest, then buy some of the luxuries you have. And if you don't have the desire for the luxuries, you don't need them. But there's people out there who get cut off or get turned off by, like, that notion, because it's like, oh, I want some of those things. And it's like, if there's things you want, you can go get them, but how you get them is really important.
It's very important. I think that just kind of lines it up for your next book. Aren't you a two-time author?
Yes, two-time.
So I didn't know that. I saw the other day when I was just quick peeking on your page. You had a first book that you wrote during the NFL, right? Mm-hmm. What was that book?
That book was called It All Adds Up, and it came out in 2023, right when I retired. I wrote it last year I was playing in the NFL.
That's so cool. Yeah. And then after that, you just released another one called
Real Estate Side Hustle. And that one, it was a huge passion project, because there's a lot of busy professionals out there who don't know how to invest in real estate.
Right.
And I kind of break down some of the main ways that I invested in real estate, but not like I talk about the core four, but I also talk about some standard operating procedures I put in place. Because while I was playing, I couldn't invest how you invest, but that doesn't mean I couldn't still invest and build a portfolio that's benefiting me a ton today.
Absolutely.
But there's things you got to do to put them in place to where you could focus on your job, make as much money there, but still grow a portfolio. So that's what that book is all about. And I'm super passionate about that, because there's a lot of people out there in the audience and, who might watch this who have a 9-to-5 job. And they're like, I can't get into real estate. Like, I can't do what Zach does. And it's like, no, you can't do exactly what Zach does while you have a true 9-to-5, because you're out touring. But you can still invest in real estate. Absolutely. And there's avenues you can do that and build some wealth for yourself and your family outside of your day job, which I think is essential in today's market.
I concur 1,000%. In fact, I encourage it, because those people that are working the 9-to-5 and they're making good money and they're making whatever, 50, 60, 100,000, whatever it is, respect to all you guys, whatever money you're making, but leverage that income, right? You're the ones working. You've got stability of income for 2, 3, 4, 10 years. Now you go out and you can qualify for a loan. That loan at 6 or 6.5, but we could show you how to buy investments at 10%, 9%. We can buy 8 to 10 caps all day long with equity, which is key. So you could buy 1, 2, 3, even if you bought one a year over the next 10 years, you're going to set yourself up tremendously.
If you got earned income coming in and you could just buy one deal every year, or even every 2 years, if you need to save up, you'll thank yourself 10 to 15 years down the line.
I think that's so critical. Everyone thinks, oh, you got to be a DK or a ZK or whatever that may be. It doesn't matter. There's no we're not comparing anything, but we encourage you, right? We want to see you succeed to leverage the income, do it systematically, build a solid foundation. It doesn't have to be at our scale, but just get your toe in the game. Take a calculated risk strategically, read the books, understand how to leverage what you're doing, and get in the game, you know?
I mean, picture somebody making, let's just come up with a scenario. You're making $150,000 a year, pretty good job. Maybe you're here locally in Arizona, and you could buy one property a year, and you do that for 5 years, and it doesn't cash flow great. Arizona's not a great cash flow. Maybe you got a long-term tenant. You or your wife manages it. Maybe you even hire a property manager, whatever. However you do that. So let's just say it cash flows just a little bit. It pays for itself, essentially. But you don't really need income from it at that point. You just, you got a good job. You guys are rolling. But in 10, 15 years,
you can pay that thing off. So strategically, 100%. Everyone's so focused on cash flow. If you cash flowed $100 a month, let's just say, even if you didn't, you just serviced the debt, and I believe rates are going to come down, so you could always refi. But even in today's market, the key component is understanding what to buy, number one, not just randomly invest. I'm not knocking what you did because it worked for you, but in terms of paying retail. But if you bought good deals strategically from wholesalers or your passion projects, you guys put some sweat equity in, did the floors and paint, and you stabilize that asset, and you have 15% equity. 15% equity, by the way, even 10% equity on an average home in Arizona at $400,000 would be $40,000 in addition to what you already made. And you're locking it in, and you're servicing that debt. So in 15 years, if you put a 15-year debt on there, even a 30, and that thing's owned, 50%.
Think about the equity.
Huge equity over time.
So now you have kids going to college. You could take a line of credit out on that property. You could refinance it. You can sell it. So just having a portfolio in Arizona of 5 or 6 properties that you bought over a 5-10 year period, you just let them roll. Think about what that could do for you in 10, 20 years. That's like when it's time to buy your kids a car, the property or the equity in the property could buy them a car, put them through college. It's going to be cash flowing better at that point because it's been 10 years. And
hopefully rents are going to increase.
Rents should have increased. So
that's just Arizona. Let's say, and I don't invest, but let's say Indiana or Ohio, where you could potentially buy 3 or 4, but your cash on cash should be greater in those markets. There's always what I say, an inverse relationship between price and yield.
Yep.
So at $100,000, if you're getting $1,400, for every $100,000 you spend in Arizona, you ain't getting $1,400 for rent or $1,200. Right. You're probably getting $800, maybe $900. So depending, you should be able to increase cash flow depending on where you buy. But I think equity is so key. Don't devalue that in the acquisitions. But I love that. So many people want the quick sugar. They're like, I want to go to the NFL, but I don't want to put in the work. I want to own 100 homes, but I don't want to get any debt. It's like, you want all these things, but you got to do the delayed gratification, set the foundation right, have the good mindset, but just slowly execute.
And it could change your life and put you in a great position.
Yeah, I like where this conversation is going. Just because if we inspire one person, we get tens of thousands of viewers on this thing. But if one person says, you know what, I love this, I'm going to read DK's book, or I'm going to utilize this advice, they're right. Why am I giving all my money? And I'm sure there's some great financial advisors out there. I'm not knocking them because they're really smart. But at the end of the day, how often does your financial advisor call you and say, hey, DK, I just want to discuss some moves. We're going to go out of cannabis stocks. We're going to be buying oil with the new presidency. I haven't received the call, and I have some significant money in equities, but I stopped contributing to my 401ks with that because I want to self-control my own destiny through real estate.
Well, even for the people out there who might be stock people, I got to share this because I went down a rabbit hole and really read a ton of books on this. You will be surprised. There is a very, very small amount of percent of financial advisors, like we're talking 1% or less, that can outperform the stock market over a multi-year period. So you might find a guy who...
You mean an index within the market, like an S&P?
Like S&P 500.
Correct.
So you might find a guy and maybe the stock market did 8 and they did 10. But the chances they're going to do that over a 2, 3, or 4 year period is very small. And the people who do it on a year-to-year basis are rarely the ones that repeat. So you got the financial advisor. Just because he's been doing it for maybe 2 years doesn't mean in 5 years he's the same guy that's outperforming consistently. So obviously there's elite guys in that too, and there's a small percentage that consistently do it. But for the most part, the standard financial advisor, so what does that say? If you're a stock market person, focus on the S&P 500 and let it roll. Buy VOO, I know is one of them, and let that thing roll, because even if they're performing and doing just as good or a little better than the stock market, when you factor in their fees and trading in and out and the cost of that, you're still better off. So even if they are overperforming, you have to factor in the expenses and of trading as well, and their 1% fee. That's usually what their cost. So it's like they need to be like substantially outperforming the S&P 500 regularly for it to be worth going with a financial advisor, as opposed to just investing in the S&P 500. And because I was such a real estate guy, I took time to really look into that and stuff. And then when I found that, I'm like, that's crazy. Like
crazy. So that same people talk about, oh, I made $50 million last year. You're talking gross sales. Let's talk about net profit. Same thing in real estate, right? Like, oh, what did you do? But net of fees, net of trades. Let's just talk. It's like saying, oh, you're this great person. Show me yours and I'll show you mine. I'm not talking about your wiener, because I definitely, you got me there. But I'm talking about tax returns, right? Let's talk about income.
Yeah.
You know, that's the important thing. Let's not talk about gross. Let's talk about net.
I mean, I hate talking in gross personally, because
let's just talk net figures.
Let's
and nobody cares, right? Everyone's spiff and all this stuff, how much money. No one cares how much money you make. They just care about the advice that you give them. And if you truly operate on what you say and you're not, you know, what do you call it, hypocritical, then you're doing the real shit.
Absolutely.
So it's good. So what are some final things, again, in terms of delivery, things that, you know, if you're on your deathbed and your daughters are sitting right there and you want to give them some final words of advice as a father, as a mentor, as an amazing businessman, what are words of advice to the world that you could say that have helped you get to 33, very impressive, crazy life so far, and you've got, you know, decades of amazing life left to share and help change the world and enhance people's lives? What are some other words of wisdom and advice you can give people?
I would say the world is changing a lot, like morally. Like, stand on what you believe and don't waver. You know, don't let outside factors, you know, change what you believe, how to go about life, how to approach things. And one of the most important traits you can have as a human being is discipline. And I think we live in a world, like, you could say discipline or you could say accountability, you know, something along those lines. I think we live in a world where there's not as much discipline and accountability, and discipline to yourself, discipline to your friends, family. Like, so decide what you believe in and stand on it. And stand on it. And there's fewer and fewer people, I feel like, living that way. You will stick out like a sore thumb in a positive way if you stand on something very positive, very, very firm, and you don't pivot from that too much. So that's something I try to remind myself. That's one of my big goals that I wrote down for this year, is like, be who you say you are, keep the promises you make to yourself, and, you know, remain disciplined.
But I've seen, like, for me, and I'm just getting to know you, and I'm loving every time I meet you. I'm always inspired and enamored by what you've done. But I feel like you've done that because you've done it your way. You've stuck to the discipline. Even though everyone's out playing, partying, or Xboxing, you're focusing on real estate, enhancing yourself, getting the MBA. You're doing the double practices. So you're practicing what you preach, which is so important. It's like everyone's, oh, Devon, look at this real estate nerd, and because they were jealous. That's why they were kind of probably either mocking you or degrading you, because they were envious and they didn't want to put in the work. So when people do that, to me, it's like, oh, you don't have a life, you don't have a wife. I said, it's my life. I can do whatever I want. You could perceive me however you want. Same thing with you. But you're playing the long game. You knew that it was going to pay off. And you were playing, regardless whether it was football or real estate, you're preparing for success.
And what I'll say with that is, it may not always feel like it's gonna pay. It's gonna pay off.
It's hard.
But one thing I would recommend anybody in that position, the mentality to have is like, it's not gonna always feel like it's gonna pay off. So even if it doesn't feel like it will, remind yourself that if it doesn't, you could at least look yourself in the mirror knowing you gave it your all the way that you felt it should be.
Right.
One thing that motivated me in the times where it didn't look like it was going to go right was, if I'm going to fail, I want to fail my way. I could not live with myself if I failed, if I didn't make it to the NFL, if I didn't figure out real estate, if I never got into real estate because people were hating on me in the locker room, coaches and players. I'd be miserable right now because I would have made this money, didn't really invest it, be stressing out. How do I get started in real estate now? I built no momentum. I should have took advantage while I was in the NFL. I'm scrambling. Could I get a meeting with you when I had nothing? Like, I was just a player, but I don't know anything about real estate because I said I'll push it off till later. I'd be miserable right now. But I'm living in my second purpose because I kind of stepped out on the ledge of what I believed in and I stuck to it. So I'm not saying that from a place of arrogance, but like, I took a chance on a way of life of like, I think this is the way I'm going to roll with it. And it didn't always feel like it was going to be great, but now I'm like, thank God. And I want to encourage more people to, it doesn't have to be my way, but like whatever that is for you, double down. Because that's the best decision I ever made.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I mean, you're just so firm in your beliefs, and despite all the, I always feel like, you know, when you have success, there's a lot of people coming after you. Oh, they're jealous. They want to bring you down. And obviously those times are hard when you haven't achieved the success. Maybe you weren't drafted yet. Maybe you didn't get your first property. In those hours of doubt, what continued to push? Was it faith? What enabled you? Because you didn't know where it was going to end up. It's hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
But during those deep hours of depression and hardship, even though you're putting in the work, did you have things that you told yourself, like, I just got to keep going, because you would be upset if you didn't follow that path? Or what were things that enabled you to keep moving forward?
The number one thing was that notion of like, if I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail my way.
Yeah.
Like, I told myself that all the time, because it's like, maybe I'm going to fail either way, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I could have had more fun if I knew I was going to fail. Maybe I'd have more fun if I did it the other way, but like, I wouldn't be able to live with myself. So that was a huge motivator. And another thing was just like, man, if I'm doing the right things and I really believe these are the right things, it can't hurt me. Like, putting in extra work to learn real estate, it's going to help me in some, like,
that's a good
it
point.
has to benefit me somehow. Like, putting these extra hours in of working out, of doing, like, it, there has to be a benefit.
What's the downside, right?
Yeah,
You're
like,
only enhancing yourself either physically, mentally, emotionally.
like,
exactly. That's a great point.
There's way more upside. Like, let's look at risk profile.
Yes.
There's way more upside than downside. The downside is I miss out on a couple of good times. People judge me a little bit, like, oh, like, and all of that.
But the question is this: those good times, are they really good, or would you rather? Like, that's the thing, is the delayed gratification. You're sitting here relaxed today, smiling. Those people that spent those countless nights, Grant, I'm sure they had a great night partying, doing their thing, and the women and the guys or whatever that is. But you're sitting here now, autonomous, doing what you want without anyone pulling the controls. You're your own coach and your own player. You do whatever you want when you want. To me, that's the ultimate freedom. That's success.
I'll put it this way. You could be successful for a moment, or you could be successful for a lifetime. And I kind of was like, if I do these things, it's going to lead to long-term success.
Yes.
I don't know if it'll be real estate. I don't know if it'll be football, but these are like principles. These are concepts that's going to benefit me one way or another. So, like, let me just stick to it. So I'll say those are kind of the things. And, you know, it's going to be tough for everybody out there. Like, if you kind of embody that, it's not always going to be easy. Not everybody around you is going to agree to you. Some people will look at you funny, but it's like, who's done something extraordinary that hasn't had to deal with that a little bit?
If it was easy, everybody would do it. Let's think about it. If this was easy, if there was no barriers of entry, if there was no, hardship, and then also you wouldn't even feel that gratification without the blood, sweat, and tears, right? If it was easy, everyone would be sitting where we are.
And another thing I'll say to that is, it doesn't always take a ridiculous, like, amount. Like, my first book is called It All Adds Up, and it's like, what got me into real estate? I would like drive in the car and listen to audiobooks instead of music. That's low. Like, I'm headed to work 20 minutes and I'm listening to a real estate podcast and I'm not jamming to Drake.
Right.
That's low barrier of entry, but I'm learning, I'm gaining some knowledge. I'm taking, like, so it's like that shit adds up. When you live like that, like a little decision like that starts to stack on itself.
Setting up text marketing is a pain in the butt. But with Investorlift, it's plug and play. With a single click of a button, you can send out thousands of texts to the most qualified and relevant buyers for your deal. Click on the link below to see how it can help your deal today.
I learned about what a cash-on-cash return is from podcasts. I, listen to audiobooks instead of reading them because I hate reading. But like just doing that consistently, it adds up. It's accumulated so much knowledge for me over the years that has impacted my professional life now that I'm like, that's where real estate, like the actual knowledge of real estate started for me.
So cool.
And it's a 20-minute
I love it.
ride.
Were you ever on the field in football and ever think about real estate or your investments ever? Or probably not in the game because you're hyper-focused, but if you're on the sidelines or something waiting to get in the game, were you ever think about your holdings?
There would be time periods where, like, let's say, like, things aren't going well for me on the field, and I'm just like, when I played for the Cardinals, keeping it all the way real, I signed with the Cardinals. Things don't start not going for me in my career how I want. Signed a pretty nice contract to play here, but they had Chandler Jones, good friend of mine, and Hassan Reddick, who both played my position, really good players. And I thought I was going to be playing more. That was kind of a difficult time for me because I come home to play, and I'm like, I'm playing at the crib. I got a nice contract. Like, I'm feeling like the man. And it starts to not play out that way for me. And my second year here, which was like the year before I retired, or 2 years before I retired, I started to see signs of like, dang, like things are turning in my career. My peak might be gone. I don't think my ability has left, but like my opportunities aren't the same. I'm getting older. And I remember there was time periods where it's like, I'm glad I got some momentum elsewhere. And even not on the field, but even on the sidelines, like being like, oh, I'm used to playing 60 snaps a game and now I'm playing 15 or 20. And it's like, I'm very in tune with reality is like, things are trending the opposite way for me.
Yeah.
I'm glad I got something else going on.
Of course.
So yeah, like
is Chandler better than you?
Chandler, it should be a Hall of Famer. So he had a much better career for me. But I'll say I over-exceeded what people expected from me on the football field.
Well, you had a great. Why did you? Chandler's my neighbor, by the way.
Yeah, that's my guy.
What a small world. It's such a nice guy too, by the way. Shout out to him. Why did you retire? At what point did you realize, okay, this is it?
I could have played another year or two. I had opportunities.
I could tell.
Yeah.
You look like you could still easily be on the field.
But so I left the Cardinals midway through the season of my third year. They cut me in the middle of the season. I immediately got picked up by Baltimore. They had injuries, so I played right away. I'm playing major snaps, played really well. But the guys that were injured came back, and they were their featured young guys that, they're trying to prop. So I got into a situation where I wasn't playing anymore. I was really just like a practice dummy at that point. And to be honest, after that goes on for a couple of weeks, I'm like, this is my 9th year in the NFL. I've been blessed to make some good money in the NFL, and I've started majority of my career like, this is not how I want my, like, the pay got to be a certain level, the situation, like if I'm going to be playing, I got to be actually playing, getting opportunities. If it's not going to be that. So I actually asked for my release from Baltimore. I told them, if you guys have injuries again and you need me, let me know. But like, I'm away from my family. My contract was already guaranteed for the year. So I was making the same amount of money being a practice dummy in Baltimore than I would have been at home.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so I'm away from my family to practice 3 days a week and let y'all play. I'm like, if you guys need me to play, I'll be ready. I'll keep training.
Yep.
But like, you can release me, let me know. But I knew when I made that decision, it would kind of spread and it would be like, oh, he might be ready to retire. Cause it's like, you're just gonna walk, you're just gonna ask for your release. Like, you must be ready to retire. So after that season ended, I had some opportunities to sign with another team, but through those conversations, I could tell it was a lot of like, kind of fill in the gaps, like, you're a good safety valve. We got our guys, but if people get hurt, we'd love to have a guy like you to depend on. And I'm like, I'm not going through a training camp and, being away from my family for that.
Right.
Like, if I was a guy who hadn't made as much money as I made, hadn't been playing as much, then
you set yourself up, like you said.
You've
already supplemented what you were potentially making or close to passively, strategically, so that you could be with your family, living the best of both lives.
So I'm like, so some guys would have the decision like, I don't know what I would do if I stopped right now.
Right.
I'm going to take whatever opportunities in front of me. I got to be like, I'm in Baltimore.
You went out on your own terms.
On my own terms.
Which is great. If somebody called you today and gave you an amazing contract, would you go back?
No.
You're done.
Yeah. I mean, they would have to pay me a lot of money, and I wouldn't want to play too many snaps. If somebody came and was like, hey, DK, we got a lot of injuries. You think you got 15 snaps a game for $5 million? I mean, come on. But,
guys, here it is. I'm his new agent. I'm his agent. You give me a call. I'll get you $5 million, 15 snaps. Give me a ring. I got you.
But
DK.
realistically, what would happen is they would pay me game by game for minimum. And that's not moving the needle for me. I could do a loan. I'm underwriting a loan that I could make that.
You're literally legitimately doing it right now, which is great. Are you still working out hard? What are you doing athletically these days to stay in top shape and peak condition?
So as far as like discipline and what we were speaking on there, I kind of came up with my retired mantra. So I want to train 10 hours a week.
Got it.
A combination of cardio, lifting, and then whatever else I might want to do. I like boxing. You know, I'm very stiff, so I'm like, I might incorporate some yoga. So I said I'm going to lift 4 or 5 hours a week. So that's like, you know, depending on how long the sessions, and then get a few hours of cardio, and then
you and I got to try. I want to train with you one time.
Yeah,
I brought you to my domain. I'm going to come to your domain. Who's going to win the Tyson fight coming up?
Man, Tyson too old. I can't.
He's too old?
He's 50-something.
He looks good. I was watching a little bit. I mean, I saw some of those pops.
I'm like, man, but should a 50-something-year-old be fighting a 20s?
He should not. But Mike Tyson is Mike Tyson. I don't underestimate that guy at all. If he lands a punch,
if he lands,
it's game over.
If he gets clean land, but I don't know. It takes a lot of intellectual, or not intellectual, but like, is this quick twitch.
Right.
Like.
And what about his stamina? I'm concerned after 1 or 2 rounds it's going to be tough. Yeah.
Those are the two things that worry me. Like, I feel like he's going to get tired and going to be a freaking statue at some point. Because that's hard. So that's my, like, it's Jake, right? If I'm Jake, I just can't get caught.
Right. Just
if I don't get caught.
Yeah, he plays defense, wears them out.
I'm going to take him to the deep waters and he in trouble. That's my guess. But if I'm Mike in the first round or two, I'm trying to
you got to go for it. That's his opportunity.
Yeah,
it's interesting. It's all good.
I saw he had like he put something on his ear to cover his ear, saying it was like a gold-plated ear
to
thing.
protect it. It's all social media. It's all social media. All right, final 2 questions for you. We're to wrap this up. It's an amazing session. Number one, I'm sure you've inspired a lot of other players that are coming out of the league. Are they all coming to you saying, hey, DK, can you teach me what you're doing?
Yeah, so I have relationships with the NFL and NFLPA.
So
I speak
cool.
at all the off-season programs, business combines, all that. So I'm very active in that. The MLB's usually in Arizona for the off-season, and I'm talking with the MLBPA to speak to the MLB players in the off-season when it's spring training.
Yep.
I'm not a baseball guy, but the spring training. So I think they're going to start bringing me in. And, you know, I would say that's like my niche passion.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really care to make a ton of money for it necessarily, but I want to teach people.
You're changing the trajectory of all these athletes. It's funny.
Yeah.
All these people were riding you before, oh, DK, the nerd, real estate, what are you doing? Come party, come play, the games with us. And now all of a sudden they embrace you, have elevated you to now enhance what they're doing. That's so cool.
It's really cool because I don't know everything, but I can talk real estate with damn near anybody.
You sure can.
I know enough. But from my perspective, it's cool because usually, to be honest, it's old white guys getting in front of us as players. So they've gravitated well to me because it's like, I could talk the real estate.
Yeah.
You want to talk cap rates, IRR, like I get the game, but like I'm one of them.
Yes.
So that's been cool to be able to connect with guys in that way.
That's beautiful. Final amazing question. Your wife is now in the game as well of real estate. How do you bring her into the organization? Or you guys work symbiotically? Is she your own separate entity? How did that evolve that she's in real estate as well?
So I don't want her to have to sit in my shadow. So she's standing on her own, but our businesses can rub together so much because she's a real estate agent. Yep. So, I'm already lending money, but if I can cherry pick deals, like she really likes project management, and then that's a listing for her.
Yep.
So I'm like, there's multiple ways you could scratch your project management, and like she likes decorating and all that. Yep. You can scratch that itch. we got to make sure it's a greater return than what I can make in lending. But if the margin's there, now that's an investment. We can make good money on it. And then you get a listing, so you get to sell it. But also, listings is gold for real estate agents. So now you got a listing. We made the house pretty. Now you're getting people to come into it. You're picking up more potential clients. So I think that's one of the main ways. And then as she builds investors, maybe there's people she brings me that want funds. So I think, we'll stand side by side and become vertically integrated in that way, filling a lot of different gaps.
Give her a shout out if they want a great agent in Arizona. How do they reach her?
Camille Kennard, you could reach out to her.
IG, don't give out that cell phone.
Yeah.
Kick your ass. Yeah.
But yeah, reach out to her, Camille Kennard on IG. If you can find me at Devon Kennard on everything. So
we'll get you in touch. Favorite team to play for in the NFL?
I got to go New York because the Giants, it was the team that drafted me, changed my life. Okay. But I could have said any of them. Detroit, I played my best ball in.
That's where I'm from. I love that.
Detroit was always special
to me. Can they win
the
Who's going to win the
That's
Super Bowl?
I'm hoping and praying for. I love the city of Detroit. I hope they win it. And then Arizona was cool because I played at home, but my experience, my career wasn't like I wanted it to when I was here. So I would probably say New York or Detroit.
Very cool. An absolute pleasure, guys. Once again, please share, like, subscribe, give the love. If you have any questions for him, put them down below. He will be responding on you. I'm going to hold you to it on YouTube. If you need private money lending, you just want to collaborate, reach out to DK and Instagram, which is, again,
at Devon Kennard.
Very simple. Thanks for taking the time today. It's amazing getting to know you. I'm amped up. I mean, I got that lion mentality right now. Let's go buy some deals. Let's go lend some money. Let's make it happen. You guys have a great day. Let us know who you want to see next on the podcast. Recommendations, questions, anything. We love feedback. We love you guys. Let's change your trajectory. Build your foundation. Buy the houses. Get in the game. Thanks, brother. It's amazing.